Hey guys, so video one, we are going to be looking at tone and register, and I've got a few activities here for you as well. So you want your worksheet open as well, and just a reminder, I'm going to call that up now so you can have a good look at it. Yeah, so you want this worksheet open because that's the one we're working on for this particular video. Now we're looking at tone and we're looking at register, and there's a lot of crossover between the two. Tone is effectively how formal something is or how informal it is, or if it's somewhere in between. Register goes a bit beyond that. So it's not just about whether something's formal or informal, it's the way you're speaking. So it could be you are writing to inquire, you're asking questions, or you could be writing an apology, an email apology. So you might have quite an apologetic sort of register email in a formal tone. And it can have stuff to do with word choice as well. So if you're at work and you work in a particular field, you might use language and words that fit within that register, that that vocabulary. So for instance, there's plenty to do with teaching that if I were to tell you, unless you work in education, you probably wouldn't pick up on initially. So that sort of covers things like jargon. So yeah, here we are. Let's have a quick look at this then. So to start with, we've got a nice little extract here, and it's from an email from one company to another company, and it's requesting further information on an order. Now, this is quite interesting because when we talk about especially tone in the workplace, it's never going to be quite as simple as either formal or informal. And it really depends on your workplace, and it depends on sort of almost reading the room, really. I mean, I've worked in workplaces where it's been pretty informal. People have been quite chatty, using quite a lot of slang in emails and stuff like that. And I've also worked in workplaces where it's expected that you maintain a level of professionalism and that you don't use slang so much, and you don't use, for instance, I don't know, emojis in an email for your manager. That's just something you sort of pick up as you work, really. Just have a quick look, see, try and gauge the tone and the register that everybody else is using in email communications. And of course, that's also going to depend on who you're emailing as well, really, at work, isn't it? Because if you're contacting someone from another company, for instance, unless you've got a very good working relationship with the direct person you're emailing, you are probably going to be more formal and more professional. If you're contacting co-workers or colleagues, odds are you're not going to be as formal. If you're contacting your manager, again, depending on where you're working, you might be more formal. So as this is an email from one company to another company, we'd expect it to be quite formal, be quite professional. So what I would like you to do to start with here, this little bit, is I'd like you to read through, and I'd just like you to start by highlighting, effectively just highlight examples of informal language. And as a bonus here, if you can spot it, that's fantastic. See whether you can see any sort of area specific jargon, so jargon that might be related to this particular workplace. So pause your video now, have a go at that first task. Once you've completed the first task, press play on this video. Okay, so broadly speaking, this is what I got. There's a couple here as well that are a bit iffy, but I think these are the sort of biggest things that stand out as being quite informal, considering it's an email from one company to another. So have a quick look. Again, you probably want to sort of say something I've examined, or I have looked over, or I've looked at. And again, I can't make heads or tails. Well, that's an idiom, isn't it? It's an expression that we use in English, and it basically means I can't make sense of this. And again, it's quite informal. It's not necessarily something you would use in an email from one company to another. Cause as well, short for because. We certainly wouldn't want to be using that. And again, give you a bell, as in telephone. Sort it out. Sort it out is a bit of a tricky one. I still might make that a bit more formal, if I'm honest. Have a quick look again and get back to me once it's all sorted. So these are all examples of quite informal, quite chatty language. So what I'd like you to do now, again, pause the video and complete task 2. So put the sort of things that you found in this column here, and then more formal phrasing, how you could phrase it a bit differently in the other column. So pause the video now, have a go at that, and press play when you're done. Okay, so I mean, these are my suggestions. You may have different suggestions, and that's absolutely fine. There may be more than one way to phrase this, so that's absolutely fine. As long as you're basically getting across the same meaning. So can't make heads or tails. A more formal way of saying that might be, I'm not sure I understand, or I can't quite see what you are asking for here, or you know, you could even sort of maybe combine it with some of the stuff that happens later on in the email. So you could sort of like combine it all together and say, I think you may be using the wrong catalog code here or something like that, instead of saying I don't understand, sort of suggest a solution. Because obviously becomes because, and again, you might want to rephrase that entire sentence really. And did you want me to give you a bell so we can sort it out? Again, do you want me to phone you so we can resolve this? Sounds a bit better. Take a quick look again, review or examine, and get back to me once it's all sorted. So contact me once the issue is resolved. So again, that just those changes there would turn that email from something that's a bit chatty, a bit informal, to something a bit more professional, a bit more formal, a bit more like you'd expect to see in an email from one company to another. So for your final task, and this is what you're going to email through to me, in addition to this sheet, of course, and I'll obviously assess it once I get back. I'm asking you to write 2 short emails. So I'm not expecting loads here. I'm expecting maybe a couple of paragraphs for each. So combined, it'd be a longer text. And it's going to be up to you to choose what tone and register. So how formal or informal it is, and also the title, the style of writing, that you're going to use here. So for email 1, the scenario is that you've only just joined the company and you're contacting your manager because you need to resolve a few things. You need a quick meeting, because you've got some questions regarding how to get a parking badge for the company car park and how to apply for the childcare voucher scheme. And again, as with all functional skills stuff, please feel free to make stuff up, draw on your own experiences, develop those ideas. So, for instance, the issue could be that maybe the company website isn't particularly clear on what you have to do, or it could be that the person who did your induction forgot those things or said they'd go over them and didn't in the end. Whatever, doesn't matter. Email 2, you've been working for the same company for a while now, and you've been asked to send out a group email to some other members of staff arranging leave and do for your colleague who's retiring. And again, you'll want to check to make sure if anyone has dietary requirements and which of the coming Friday afternoons will work best for people. So you've got 2 different scenarios there that are going to require you to use different tone, different register, and different word choice. As I said, please do complete those and email them to me with this sheet completed, and I will assess them once I return.